Salvete discipuli. In this lesson, we will begin a new story. We will be reading the Latin original of what will eventually become the story of King Lear. Okay, today we begin a new story. It comes from a work called the Gesta Romanorum. The Gesta Romanorum is a compilation of stories. The manuscript dates to the 1200s, but it contains stories that are much older. In fact, many of the stories come from the Far East and are turned into European stories merely by changing the names. The Emperor Theodosius, he is a historical person that we know about. He was the emperor of Rome in the late 300s. He had only 2 daughters, one of whom died in infancy. Now, you're going to learn in the story, Theodosius is described as having 3 daughters. So the original readers of the story, they knew this wasn't real, They knew enough about history to know that, Theodosius only had 1 daughter that lived, so a story about Theodosius and his 3 daughters, it's clearly just some type of a parable, and that's really what this will be. There was no king of Egypt at this time. Egypt was a province of Rome, and you're going to learn in this story that a king of Egypt figures prominently. Well, there was no king of Egypt. So again, people reading this story, they knew that this was a parable. And so, let's begin. Theodosius in civitate Romana regnavit, prudens, valde et potens, qui 3 filias pulchras habebat. Theodosius reigned in the Roman city, Why not just say Rome, by the way? No, he says the Roman city. Very prudent and powerful. Who had 3 beautiful daughters. Dixitque filiae seniori, quantum diligus me? And he said to the oldest daughter, how much do you love me? Now, notice this verb. This is not the verb amare, which we would think is like the verb to love. It's this verb here also. It's a synonym. It can mean to love. We have datives here. Filiae is the dative of first conjugation, and seniori, third. And he said to the oldest daughter, how much do you love me? Now, when the emperor comes to you and asks you how much you love him, what's the right answer? At illa, certe plusquam me ipsam. But that one. Now, this is important. The word at is a synonym of said. It just means but. Notice there is no verb here which means said, This is actually quite common in Latin, and you're going to encounter this when we get to Virgil, Virgil is going to sometimes have at. He's going to use the same word. He's going to say at, and then like the name of a person, and then the quote, So we have to supply dixit mentally, But that one understood said. Literally, certe, certainly, plusquam, more than, me ipsam, me, myself. Now what this means is, I love you more than I love myself. This would seem to be the right answer when the emperor asks you, how much do you love me, right? Ait ei pater, et te ad magnas divitias promovebo. The father said to her, and I will promote you to great riches. Look at this. You've never seen this before. Ait. Ait is a verb that means said. Ait. It's certainly a strong medieval word for said, but it does show up at times in the classical period. So it's a synonym of dixit. And the father said to her, I will promote. Promovebo. This is the normal future ending for this second conjugation verb. I will promote you, te. What will I promote you to? Ad magnas divitias, to great riches. In other words, he likes her answer to his question, how much do you love me? Statim ipsam dedit uni regi opulento et potenti in uxorem. Immediately he gave her. Okay, now ipsam literally means her herself. Okay, but you can sometimes like reduce the meaning of self and just use it as an adjective that just means her. Okay, immediately he gave her. Who did he give her to? Well, here's some datives: uni, regi, opulento, potenti. These are all datives. He gave her to an opulent. Opulent means very rich. Potenti. Potenti means powerful. He gave her to a king. Okay? He gave her to a king in uxorem. Now, this is an idiom. In uxorem literally means into a wife, but it's an idiom that means as a wife. Okay? So again, this is important. The structure of the Middle Ages was that the Holy Roman Emperor, okay, was in charge of the Holy Roman Empire, and he ruled over regions that had kings, okay? Under those kings, there were dukes, okay? Under those dukes, there were counts, okay? So that's kind of like the progression of the organization of the Holy Roman Empire. So she gave the right answer, I love you more than I love myself, and she gets to get married to a king. She's going to have a wonderful life. Post haec, venit ad secundam filiam, et ait ei, quantum diligisme. After these, now these means these things, okay, after these things. After these things, he came to the second daughter and said to her, how much do you love me? Now, we already know what the right answer is, right? Will she give the right answer? At illa tantum sicut me ipsam. But that one, and again, remember, we have to supply something, but that one said, okay? Tantum sicut me ipsam. So much, literally, so much like me myself. I love you as much as I love myself. Now, presumably, by the way, if you've got a healthy self-esteem, this is still a very good thing, right? Okay, so like I've got a healthy self-esteem. I love myself a lot, okay? So if I tell you that I love you as much as I love myself, I am basically telling you that I love you a lot, okay? But guess what? Do you think the emperor is going to consider this as good an answer as her older sister? Imperator vero eam quidam duci tradidit in uxorem. Verily, the emperor handed her over to a certain duke as a wife. Notice the difference here. In the first time, dedit, gave. Now, tradidit, handed over. Okay, so it's like, all right, here, take her. He throws her over to this duke. And here's the thing, not to a king. Okay, this emperor has other kings that he could theoretically marry a daughter off to, but he doesn't marry the second one off to a king. He marries her off quidam duci, to a certain duke. In other words, this duke is actually under the authority of a rex, okay? So what it comes down to is this. The oldest sister, she's going to live in a palace, okay? The second sister, she's going to live in a very nice house, but not as big a house as her older sister, who is married to a king, okay? So hand her over to a certain duke as a wife. Okay, so in the next installment, we will learn what happens when the emperor asks the third daughter, quantum diligisme, how much do you love me? and what her answer will be.